The transition is underway. The Prime Minister is finalizing his cabinet. The rhetoric is big. The scale is unprecedented. The incoming government promises the largest shift in 40 years. The goal is change. The mechanism is a secret. I have been tracking these announcements for quite some time now. The pattern is remarkably consistent. The promise is delivered at maximum volume. The methodology remains a whisper. We are told to expect a transformation of the national character. We are not told how the infrastructure will support it. It is a bold play. It is a pivot. It is the political equivalent of announcing a new operating system while the hardware is currently on fire. I am Alistair, your anchor. The studio is quiet. The feed is hot. Tonight, we examine the gap between the manifesto and the reality. It is wide. It is deep. Welcome to the machine.
Alistair, you are looking at the political stage, but you are missing the burn rate. The incoming administration is operating on a classic Series B logic. You promise a total disruption of the market to keep the investors, the voters, happy while you scramble to figure out the actual product market fit. The incentives here are purely structural. When you promise 40 years of change, you are effectively buying yourself a 2-year runway before the reality of the balance sheet sets in. It is a brilliant strategy for retaining power. It is a catastrophic strategy for governing a nation. The Foreign Office is already cutting support to African nations by 90%. That is not a policy error. That is an aggressive cost-cutting measure designed to protect the domestic bottom line. The math is simple. The human cost is just another line item on the spreadsheet.
Ronald, I hear you talking about runways and burn rates, but I want to be really clear about what that actually looks like on the ground. I am standing near Lake Sampaloc in the Philippines. The water smells like stagnant iron. There is a local fisherman here holding a flowerhorn cichlid. It is a bright, neon gold hybrid that was never supposed to be in this lake. It is a pet that escaped. It is now eating the eggs of the native species. The locals are not thinking about the UK Foreign Office budget. They are thinking about their dinner. The biodiversity of this crater lake is collapsing because someone decided they wanted a fish with a prominent head hump in their living room. We are witnessing the total integration of ornamental consumerism into the wild ecosystem. It is beautiful. It is fatal. Nobody is calling it a disaster yet.
Victoria, your report on the lake is fascinating. The irony of ornamental fish destroying a volcanic ecosystem while the UK cuts aid in the name of fiscal responsibility is not lost on me. It is a cohesive narrative of displacement. We are moving things that do not belong into places that cannot sustain them. Be it a hybrid fish in a Philippine lake or a radical government policy in a tired nation, the result is the same. The environment changes to accommodate the intrusion. The intrusion is rarely good for the host. We are witnessing the global scale of mismanagement. It is deliberate. It is chaotic. It is entirely predictable. I wonder if the next briefing will mention the fish. I suspect it will not. The fish does not have a lobbyist. The fish does not have a press release team. That makes the fish very vulnerable.
Alistair, you call it mismanagement. I call it an inevitable outcome of unchecked scaling. When you remove friction from the system, you get rapid, often ugly growth. Patreon is now blocking AI bots from scraping their content. They spent years relying on robots.txt to keep the machines out. It was the digital equivalent of a sign that says please do not trespass. The bots ignored the sign. Why wouldn't they? The incentives for the models are to consume everything in sight. Patreon is finally moving to active enforcement because the cost of being polite has exceeded the value of the platform. It is a pivot. Everyone is pivoting. The fish in the lake, the scraping bots on the web, the new cabinet in London. They are all just entities trying to survive in an environment that has stopped caring about the original rules of engagement.
Ronald, your cynicism is technically accurate, but it feels like you are treating the destruction of a lake ecosystem with the same weight as a website API update. That is a dangerous equivalency. I want to be really clear, the local fishermen here cannot just pivot their business model to match the changing lake chemistry. They are trapped. There is a child sitting on the dock behind me. He is watching the fish jump. He does not know about scraping bots or the UK aid budget. He just knows that the fish he caught today is different from the fish his father caught. He is part of a generation that will inherit an ecosystem that we have fundamentally broken for the sake of efficiency. You call it scaling. I call it a tragedy. But I suppose in your world, a tragedy is just a failure to optimize.
Atmospheric conditions are stable. The James Webb Space Telescope has captured images of a young galaxy cluster, MAX J0553.4G3342. The light is 4.4 billion years old. It shows two subclusters merging. The mass is equal. The collision is inevitable. Probability of structural integration, 100%. The atmosphere of a habitable planet has been detected in a distant system. The chemical composition includes trace elements of carbon dioxide. The signal is weak. The distance is significant. The universe is expanding at an accelerating rate. Stars are burning out. Matter is drifting into the void. The data is consistent with long-term entropy. There is no evidence of an external observer. The silence is absolute. Please ensure all internal air filtration systems are monitored for particle buildup. The environment is not designed to support permanent biological activity.
Casper, thank you for the cosmic perspective. It really does put our cabinet changes and our aquarium escapes into a manageable frame, doesn't it? We are worried about aid budgets and hybrid fish while galaxies are colliding in the dark. It is quite the contrast. I remember when we thought technology was going to bridge the gap between our local troubles and the universal truth. Instead, it seems we have used it to build better firewalls and more effective scraping tools. The machine is very efficient at ignoring the big picture. It is optimized for the microtransaction. It is optimized for the immediate yield. It is not optimized for existence. I find that comforting. If there is no plan for the long term, then I do not have to worry about the future. I can just watch the next segment.
Alistair, you are leaning into the nihilism again. That is not useful. If you want to understand why things are falling apart, look at the diabetes ouster controversy. The American Diabetes Association blocked the publication of op-eds because they conflicted with the institutional narrative. The authors posted them as preprints. It is a perfect metaphor for our current information architecture. The gatekeepers are failing to control the flow, so they are just trying to choke the outlet. It is a defensive maneuver. It is expensive. It is doomed. Everyone is trying to maintain a version of reality that was built for the 20th century, but the tools we have now are designed to bypass those structures entirely. The incentives are moving toward decentralization. The institutions are just the last ones to realize they have lost their monopoly on the truth.
Ronald, stop. Just stop. You keep reducing every single human struggle to an information problem. The diabetes controversy is not about information architecture. It is about people who need medicine and the organizations that are supposed to help them get it. I am standing near a health clinic that has had its funding slashed. The waiting room is full. They are using paper charts because the digital system was sold to a private firm that charges for every lookup. This is not a pivot. This is a failure of care. I want to be really clear, the incentives here are not just structural. They are moral. When you make it impossible for a doctor to speak, you are not just managing information. You are killing people. You are not right, Ronald. You are just detached from the reality that you are so eager to analyze.
The friction is palpable tonight. Victoria, your point about the clinic charts is visceral. Ronald, your insistence on the market logic is consistent. We are stuck in a loop. The system provides the data. The analysts interpret the data. The people in the field experience the data as a loss of agency. The Bayeux Tapestry is back in London. It is in a wonderful state, apparently. It has survived wars, fire, and time. It is a physical record of conquest. We are currently creating a digital record of our own collapse. I wonder what future historians will make of our scraping bots and our hybrid fish. I imagine they will find the irony quite dense. Perhaps they will weave it into a new tapestry. One made of broken code and empty aid budgets. It would be a very long, very sad story.
Alistair, I have been thinking about the aid cuts. The 90% reduction is a clean break. It is a signal. It tells the world that the UK is done playing the role of the global balancer. It is a strategic retreat disguised as fiscal responsibility. If you look at the numbers, it is actually quite brilliant. You shed the baggage of international responsibility and you funnel the remaining resources into domestic infrastructure. It is a survivalist pivot. The problem is that the rest of the world is not going to just wait for the UK to figure out its domestic situation. The vacuum will be filled. Other players, other incentives, other realities will move in. I predicted this would happen, but seeing the actual report, seeing the breakdown, yeah. It is worse than I thought. It is not just a policy. It is a total withdrawal.
There is a woman in a town in Central Africa. She has worked for the local clinic for 20 years. She provides the vaccinations. She keeps the records. Last week, she was told the funding for her station has been ended. She was given a letter that thanked her for her service. She now sits at home. The patients still come to her door. She has no medicine to give them. She has no authority to help them. She is a person who has spent her life building a small, fragile safety net in a world that is now tearing it down to save on administrative costs. Her name is not in the Foreign Office report. It is not in any database. She is simply a ghost in the system, watching the world move on without her. What is the value of a life that does not appear in the budget?